Welcome to another Alpha Strike replay video. My name is Adam, and this is my friend Tarron.
Hey buddy, how we doing?
Good.
We are doing one of my favourite things in the world at this point. Artillery.
Artillery. Time has come.
We're going to start trying to work out artillery, so let's swoosh it and do it.
So this is going to be a two-part video because there is quite a bit to discuss.
Minimum, yes.
Things like that. So artillery is optional.
Yes.
As far as rules, really.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool.
It's very cool. I mean, if you can blow the guys up before they're even in the same zip code as you, it's pretty awesome.
It is, right. So the book that we're referring to here, the cover may be different to a newer print, but this is Tactical Operations, all right? And it starts on page 179.
Yes.
In our copy, does it?
In our copy, it does, yeah. So what you've got with artillery is basically the ultimate indirect fire weapon.
Essentially.
It's just brilliant for indirect fire. But you have some very, very, very specific rules that apply to indirect fire for artillery. All artillery is area effect.
Yeah.
Okay. So area effect weapons damage all units in the target hex and can also damage in the surrounding hexes adjacent to the target hex. Area effect weapons always deal their full damage to each trooper and battle army unit and deal double damage to conventional infantry. If you strike a water hex, you treat it as though it were a building hex and resolve damage as appropriate. And they will deal half standard damage round up one elevation above the surface. So you're still dealing damage to your hexes and surrounding hexes depending on the magnitude of the weapon, but you're also dealing damage above in the first initial hex. Okay, so you can take down helicopters with artillery. Yes. Which is something that I find awesome. Sorry, I had to mention that because I love it. I reckon it's brilliant. So that was area effect weapons. Okay.
So
we're going to do a shallow dive here, okay? But you have a specific sequence of play for artillery. It adds in
another step, essentially, doesn't it?
Yeah, another step or two for different things. So you've got a targeting phase, and you've got an indirect artillery attack phase. The targeting is where you're actually making rolls and trying to see like which hex is going to be done and how long it's going to take for it to get there, because your artillery is not on the play area.
No.
Not normally. You can have it on the play area, but normally it'll be off board.
Yeah. So its range that it has is different to all the other weapons.
Yes.
Its range is in map sheets. Not hexes, map sheets.
Map sheets.
And there's some pretty horrendous ranges on some of this artillery.
There's some awesome ranges on this artillery. You can hit things from anywhere up to 30 map sheets away.
Yeah.
And cruise missiles, which is a different type of artillery that we'll go into at some point, can have just insane amounts of map sheets. But artillery table there on page 181 of TAC Ops, the flight times and distance. It shows you your maximum ranges as well there. But you're looking at, for most standard artillery, about 30 map sheets away.
So I guess artillery is useful for stationary targets.
Yep.
And other artillery positions. I guess are included with that. So
you can have counter battery fire, which is a cool little optional rule, but it's mainly useful against things that are either moving very, very slowly, Atlas scouting parties, or against things like buildings and things that are stationary.
Yeah. So static targets, you're well away, so it doesn't really matter how long the shell takes to get there, really, because the building's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah.
And that's good.
And that's your flight times there on that table. You can, for 30 map sheets away, you are looking at a 5-turn flight time.
Yeah.
Which means you're going to target it in the targeting phase that they add in there, and then 5 turns after that in the indirect artillery attack phase, the shell that you've targeted will land.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a planning thing. You have to know in advance what you want to hit and where.
Yeah.
Not easy to do sometimes.
And not automatic either.
No.
Not initially anyway.
Unless you pre-designate.
Correct.
So if you agree, this is an optional thing. If everybody agrees before you begin play, each side using artillery units not placed directly on the playing area may secretly choose up to 5 hexes on the play area as pre-plotted target hexes. Artillery fire on a pre-plotted hex automatically hits after flight time has elapsed. And they go into some other things there, but that gives you the option to preset some points that you think are going to be useful and bring artillery down on them in a exact manner.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool. I mean, if you have a defender, this would be something that you give to a defender and just say, okay, so you're the defending player, you've got XBV and you've spent it on artillery, we'll give you your 5 hexes of pre-designated thing. It's a time-based thing. You've calculated angles and trajectories and flight times and all that sort of thing. You know you can hit that point dead on every time, which is cool.
But if it's a hex that you don't know and you want to start targeting it,
it can be quite bad.
It can be, and you need a spotter.
Yeah.
Okay. And depending on the skill of the spotter and terrain and all that sort of thing, that's going to affect whether you can actually get it on the first. So there was a modifiers table, I believe, somewhere.
Yep. So on page 180,
180,
you have the artillery modifiers table.
Yep.
And we'll bing that up. Bing. So, I mean, it's fairly self-explanatory, but let's have a squeeze. So you get a -1 to your. This is to your to hit roll. So for every 2 points of gunnery skill less than 4 possessed by the spotting unit, and you'll remember that under 4 means it's a better one, so you're getting a bonus there.
Yeah, true.
So for every 2 points of gunnery skill greater than 4 possessed by the spotting unit, you get a +1. And then adjusting fire. For each previous shot fired at the target hex by the artillery unit, you get a -1. Okay, so if you've got a decent gunner spotting for a unit that's firing at the same hex over and over again, you're slowly going to hit that hex better and better and better.
That's right.
And it's cool.
Yeah.
That helps you get in on, zero in on that target.
It is interesting to point out, though, that you can't use that -1 modifier for adjusting if you're shooting at a hex that the spotter can't directly see.
Yeah.
So you have to, so someone on your side basically has to be able to see it to do any adjustments.
Yeah, and they have to, I'm pretty sure the adjuster has to be able to see it when the artillery lands.
Yes, that's
so
right.
you can target the hex, but if, say, you're using a mech as your spotter and the mech walks away and can't see that hex when the artillery shell lands, then you can't use that adjusting
You
fire.
can't adjust, there's no one there to say, if it hit or not. So.
Yeah. It's a little complicated for how you go about it, but that's the basics for targeting it in.
And you don't attack because you're attacking a hex. You can hit everything that's in there. You don't target individuals. That's
you target a hex.
Bang, and you hit everything that's in there.
It is a good thing. It can be a bad thing if you miss.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to point out 2 concepts here, 2 optional things: hidden units and infantry, because they're gold as far as artillery spotters goes.
Yeah.
Definitely. If you've got a hidden platoon of infantry in, say, a forest hex or an overlooking building or something, they are permanently seeing that hex until they get spotted and taken out. And you've got a permanent spotter and you can slowly zero in on hexes, and it's really, really good.
Yeah.
Especially if you give them a good gunnery skill.
True.
Yeah.
Now, in one of our other videos, we did talk about the Arrow 4 system.
Yes.
Used with tag. So it is a missile rather than a big shell. Okay?
Yeah.
And it does have some sort of, there's two versions. There's your cluster, which sort of functions the same as a normal shell. You fire it, hits a location, boom. And then you've got a homing, which uses a tag to target. So that comes in, it doesn't hit the hex per se. That is one exception where you can attack an actual individual target.
Yeah.
But if it does miss, then I think it hits and does 5 damage to everything that's in there anyway.
Yeah.
Or something like that, or it just goes wide. But it's pretty good. I mean, that's 20 points of damage to an individual. But it still has a range of, I don't know, 8 or 5 or something. Lots of hex board. So
maximum range in map sheets. The inner sphere is 8. The clan is 9.
There you go. Yeah. So you can. The closer you are to the battle, the more likely you are to affect it directly.
We did our vehicle video, and somebody commented under there, is it the Hadur? Hadur? It's a clan hovercraft with an Arrow 4 system on it. And that's cool. If that was you, chuck a comment down. Because I had never seen that one before, and that's awesome. I love it.
There's another one. Huichalopsy or so. It's got a really, the Huey, I think they nicknamed it or something.
Wow.
It's
another one like that.
It's
chocolate.
Yeah, that's right. Huichalopsy or something, which is a really slow moving clan sort of Arrow 4 vehicle or whatever. But that's pretty good. That's been in service for a while.
You can get catapults with Arrow 4s on. You can get mechs with arms that are completely replaced with sniper artillery and stuff like that.
I mean, you can fire it consider on board. So anything that's on the same map as you
is on board.
Is on board, and that's straight away sort of thing.
Yeah. And direct fire is a little bit complex with artillery as well, because you have to have you've got maximum ranges and minimum ranges, and you've got modifiers if you go in and out of that range, and you've got indirect that you can do on the same board.
Yeah.
But it all gears around 17 hexes, and I think a map sheet is about 17 hexes.
It is, yeah.
So you're looking at some serious problems if you're having onboard artillery and you're only using one map sheet. Serious problems. Okay, so don't do it unless you're using multiple map sheets or you've got a custom board or something like that.
Yeah.
Because you can hit some mega problems. We probably will go into the different types of artillery and maybe some of the ammo, because there is a shell for, I think, the long tom that you can also bring down on people with tag, which is cool. The copperhead.
Okay, we'll have a look at that.
We'll get into that at some point.
Yeah.
But I think that's basics. Your hit, your actual determining hit, is a standard 2d6 roll with gunnery and all that sort of stuff. But you're applying modifiers for various bits and pieces, and then you'll either hit or you'll have a margin of failure. So it scatters. If you miss the roll, you do your normal 2d6 roll. If you miss, you have a margin of failure, and for each point of margin of failure, the artillery scatters by 1 hex.
That's right.
Okay, so you have a scatter diagram there on page 182, but it's fairly simple. I mean, the hex has 6 sides. You've got a 6-sided dice. It's not hard.
Yep.
So determine the exact location. You roll 1 die, compare it to the scatter diagram, and then you go out in that direction by a number of hexes equal to the margin of failure.
Yeah.
Nasty.
That can be bad.
It can be really bad.
Yeah.
If you get a really bad roll and a really bad scatter, you can end up shelling your own people very, very easily. So be careful.
Yeah.
And the damage, it basically spreads out. On the next page there on 183, you've got a radius diagram there. Yeah. But artillery doesn't just go, oh, it's 3 hexes wide or anything like that. Artillery counts down by its damage. So it'll do full damage to the initial impact point, and then each hex out from there will take X amount less of damage.
Cool.
Okay, so the damage amounts that you're looking at for the weapons that we'll get into later will slowly reduce out as you go bigger. Okay, and they'll do that so if something's got 20 points, it'll do 20 points to the initial one, and then if it drops by say 5, it'll do 15 points to everything around it. It's really, really good. If you can get it to hit, it's really good. Yeah. So I would be very happy to have artillery in every single game I play, but it's not always particularly feasible.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah.
And it is possible for aerospace units to actually get in on some of that artillery action.
Yes.
Because fighters have bomb slots.
You can use bomb slots, and
Yeah.
I think they can carry cruise missiles as well.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
So from memory, I'd have to double check this rule. From memory, I think an Arrow 4 missile takes up like 5 bomb slots because they're so much bigger.
Yeah,
Something
probably.
like that. But you can have that as a cluster round or a homing round, same sort of thing. So you fire them all off, and then someone tags on the turn that arrives.
It's really
if
good.
you're deploying an artillery piece from an aircraft, that's really cool.
Dear.
But we'll get into that. So so just remember, on board, off board, different types of weapons can do different damage and have different ranges. There's counter battery fire, all these little things that you can try.
You have the basics are you have to target it, and you have to wait for it to come in, and then it will hit on the turn it comes in, and you have to scatter it if you miss, and it does big damage. This is big area effect damage, and it can be really, 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 really helpful, but it can go bad.
It can go bad,
yeah. All good.
All right.
I think we've covered the bare minimum that you need for artillery there.
That's right.
We'll go into some weapon types and ammo types next time.
Yes. So we'll cover the other part of it, things that you need to know.
Yeah.
Maybe some tips on how to use it and defend against it and whatnot.
Yeah.
But that's it for this one. So we'll see you in the next video. Consider subscribing if you like what you see. Love to have you on board with us.
Yeah, dead set.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
All good.
Thank you. See you next time.
Bye guys.